Hello, everyone, and welcome to another session as a part of the Healthy Masculinity webinar series hosted by the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center. Today's session is going to be geared towards grades 7 and 8 classrooms. Before we get started, I think it would be a great idea to go around and introduce our facilitators that are here today. I'll start. My name is Lucas Schaefer, and I'm a male support and allied leader at the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center. Lisa, would you like to go next?
Hi, everyone. You're probably wondering why I'm here, as this is more of a male-focused presentation, but I work with the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center, and I'm the Prevention Education Supervisor. I work very closely with Lucas, and this is a program that I love and is very near and dear to my heart. And Holden.
Hi, I'm Holden Lowe's. I'm a second-year biology student at Trent University. I'm relatively new to this program, and this is actually my second webinar.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And with that, let's get right to it. So we're going to be talking about what we're going to be talking about first. And we're going to be explaining who we are at the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center, what services we provide, and what we do. And then we're going to be talking about men and mental illness and talking about the rates at which we see young folks like you experiencing mental illness and the unique experiences that men have to deal with mental health and mental illness challenges. Then we're going to ask ourselves, what are we told a guy is? And asking ourselves where we are informed of this idea, right? And really going to this kind of stereotype of men that we see. And then we're going to contrast that stereotypical image by asking ourselves what we want a guy to be. And thinking of the men in our lives and applying those and seeing how they contrast with each other. Then we're going to wrap up and say, what can we do to make ourselves and others feel good about being a guy? So we're gonna ask ourselves what we can do to avoid some of the challenges that we're going to see with the stereotypical image of being a man. And then we're going to end off by talking about different supports and resources at the center. So who are we at the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center? Well, we support people who are impacted by sexual and gender-based violence, both recent and historical. We're situated in Peterborough at 150 King Street, but we service a 4-county area, so that's going to be Peterborough, Northumberland, City of Kawartha Lakes, and Haliburton. We offer individual and group counseling for both youth and adult survivors and their supporters. Something that we do at the center is called psychoeducation. And basically what that is providing information to the loved ones of survivors of gender-based and sexual violence, letting them know what it's like to have trauma and what it does to the body so that they're better informed in supporting the people that they love in their life. We also have awesome programs like the advocacy and accompaniment kind of services that we have at the center. So this is an option for survivors to have someone come along with them to the hospital or to go through the legal process or to be a witness in different legal systems. So this is an option that's available to you if you want. And there's also different programs that we offer at the center. So we have expressive arts programs, the Building Internal Resiliency Through Horses programs, the Flow program, which is about how we can use gentle body movements and mindfulness practices to become more attuned with ourselves. And then on the other side of things, we have public education, just like what we're doing now, where we go out into the community and we talk about different topics regarding like healthy relationships, what it means to be a man, how to be an active intervener. And a part of the public education side of things at the Kawartha Sexual Assault Center is the MENding Program, which is a male ally leadership program that focuses on engaging men in ending gender-based violence. And we do that by talking about what gender-based violence is and the instances that we see in society. We talk about what it means to be a man, kind of like we're doing what we're doing today. And we talk about what is consent and what are healthy relationships and how can we be active interveners into the harms that we see in our everyday lives. Then at the end of the program, we talk about how we can teach the program to other people and continue our own learning by facilitating the program. And then we also offer 24/7 call, text, and web chat lines that we're going to be talking more about at the end of the presentation. So let's start off. What's up with guys' mental health? I was referencing this a little bit earlier, but the statistic that we have here for you today is that approximately 1 in 5 children and youth in Ontario has a mental health challenge. So when we're talking about this and talking about statistics, it's important to really bring it home and ask ourselves, I know 5 people in my life. Statistically, one of those people, one of my friends and peers that are in my class probably is going through a mental health challenge. It could be you listening. And we know that about 70% of mental health challenges have their onset in childhood or youth, meaning when we're going through grade school and high school, that something happens to us that has this effect on us, a long-term effect, right? And that's really tough. And something that we have to keep in mind when we're talking about these statistics is the male experience when we have mental health, right? So we know that it's really difficult for guys to reach out and connect with people and talk about their experiences and talk about tough feelings that they might be going through, talking about how they're not always feeling happy all the time, or their head seems to be buzzy, or they don't seem motivated as usual, right? And we noticed that there's a difficulty in connecting and asking and reaching out to people. And in order to ask,
Maybe I was
yeah,
gonna say maybe Holden can I could see Holden nodding. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that.
Holden, yeah, is this statistic speaking to you?
Um, Not so much as it is shocking, I guess, to say, because like you said, like sitting in a classroom, even like you look around and there's at least more than 5 guys in the classroom. So
Yeah,
like it's just such a relatable and under discussed topic that I think that it's definitely a little bit of a eye opener for a lot of people.
yeah. Thank you so much, Holden. A lot of the stuff seems invisible, right? And that's why it's good to talk about. So we're going to be talking about it a little bit more by asking yourselves, why is this happening to men, right? And in order to answer that question, we have to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a guy? What are traits and values often said to be manly in society? So if you're an educator watching this pre-recorded, this is a time where you can pause the webinar and ask your class, what's the kind of stereotypical image of being a man? What are the jobs that he has? Who does he hang out with? What does he do after work? And talk about that together, and maybe where they learned about those ideas as well.
Where
So let's
does
get
he
in.
work? Where does he
Where
work?
does he work? Yeah, thank you. So maybe Holden, do you want to talk about where we might learn being a guy comes from?
Yeah, sure. I think that especially as someone who's, I guess, coming out of my youth here, social media is such a big part of the world, and you see the stereotypical man through advertisements, through even on like things that are posted here, like Netflix and Crave,
Mhm.
movie scenes where you get the superheroes that are the savior and the save the damsel in distress and stuff. And it's important to remember that all that stuff is scripted, and at times it can be completely unrealistic. So it's important to take that into consideration when looking at what it means to be a guy from those standpoints.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holden. I think that was perfect. Let's move on. Yeah. So like just like Holden was talking about, right? We're informed through social media, the movies we watch, through advertisements about what this kind of stereotypical image of being a man is. When we ask ourselves what the first thing we think of when we imagine a guy, we get things like, oh, he's handsome, he's big, he's tough, right? He's physically strong and macho. He works out. He's really sporty, right? And maybe he uses that strength in his jobs that he has. So he's a handyman. He can construct things, and he's really tough, so he can carry a lot, right? He's a lawyer, right? He's really witty and skilled and quick-witted, so that he always wins arguments. And so maybe that can also be being a police officer, right? Having lots of power and going in and, like Holden was talking about, saving the day and being a superhero. Are there any other traits that you see missing from this, Holden, that you could think of?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, yeah, like those
Totally.
are
Yeah.
some pretty diverse and inclusive terms, I think.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
You want to
And
talk maybe to the emotion, Lucas?
yeah. I think that'll be emphasized really well on the next slide, right? Because when we think of all these different terms that culminate to this stereotypical image of a man, and we look at it and we ask ourselves, is this realistic? And how do we feel about this? Maybe Holden, when you look at the different words in this, how do you feel about this being the only way to be a man?
Yeah, growing up, especially, and even when we did this activity in my training, um, I was able to reflect on my one definition that I've always known for being a man, which is the strong, popular, athletic, handy, et cetera, et cetera. And it was pretty, uh, I guess, discreet in um, me not really realizing the correlation between these and the demeaning terms that come in, which we'll be talking about in a few minutes here. But um, I think that some of these terms we're about to see are ones that I've regretfully used myself, but I think that this program is important and it helps people grow. So that's
Thank you so much for sharing that, Holden. Like, it's really important to be like forthright about our experiences with being a man and growing up with this kind of singular idea of being a man, right? And as you were talking about before, like uh, when we find ourselves outside of the box, because this is a very narrow definition of what it means to be a man, right? Like if you're not tough or you're not big, maybe you're a little bit shorter than the average guy. You're called things like weak and feeble. You're small, right? If you don't want to be a police officer and you want to be a cook, oh well, then what? Like what? You're good for nothing. Like what is a cook gonna do? You don't want to be the savior of society, right? If you're not if like you're showing emotion and you're not rational, then you're emotional or you're like weak, right? Why are you letting things like affect you? That seems so girly. And we can talk about this more, right? Because like the kind of stereotypical image that we see of a man is someone who like gets the girls and has a lot of like relationships and is maybe engaging in intimate relationships with them. But when we see people not engaging in those kinds of relationships, they get like questions asked about them and saying like, oh, well, if you don't like this, what are you, gay, right? Associating that with being something that's bad, right? And what we see like different phrases that are launched against people and us really who fall outside of this man box are things like man up, uh, don't don't be such a girl, right? Um, Quit acting like a girl. And maybe if you're going through a tough experience, oh, suck it up, take it like a man. Just why aren't you being tough, right? And just like Holden was talking about, sometimes this even results in demeaning language and insults that are launched against people. So maybe we can look at those as well, right? We've all heard these different insults before. We're very familiar with them, as Holden was talking about, either receiving them or as we're growing up, saying them to other people, right? And what we can notice about all these different swear words and slurs is that they're associated with being a woman or being a part of the LGBTQ2 plus community, meaning being gay and loving men, which is really tough, right? Because if you're a part of that, if you're a part of the community, if you're gay, bisexual, or trans, right, you're automatically being deemed as lesser, right? Because we as men want to be men, right? And when being a woman is not being a man, and being a man is a good thing, and being a woman is a bad thing, right? Do you see what we're doing when we're setting up our language and our thoughts like that? That we're in defining a man as not a woman and not gay and not trans and not bisexual, that we're kind of like saying that they're lesser than, right? That if you embody these kinds of things that are just a part of who you are, that you're not good, right? And this language really reveals that. So when we're looking at this, and we've just talked about this, what are some feelings that are coming up when we look at this? Maybe Holden can speak to this.
Yeah, it is unfortunate because, like I said, I've always had that one definition, which is the stereotypical be a man. And it's kind of, I guess, disappointing now that I'm more educated that these words that are used in derogatory settings, I guess, are including the people that aren't a man, including women and the LGBTQ2 plus community. So it's unfortunate, and I'm hoping that we'll grow away from this, especially through programs like this, and which is why I'm glad to be here.
Thanks so much, Holden.
Yeah, I've got a question for Holden. So like obviously we see outside of the box, and we know that these words are bad. Like they're words that are used super frequently. We know that they're bad, but maybe why or what informed you to say that these words are okay to use? How did you learn about these words and that it was like okay to use these words?
I think that, like, growing up, I was involved in sports, and like I was pushed down the stereotypical male pathway. So I felt like I saw a lot of these words in my life. So not necessarily being told deliberately that it was okay, but just hearing it and seeing it used by other people maybe felt like it was the cool thing to do, or you had to do it to fit in, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the less direct form of learning it was what impacted me the most.
Yeah, thank you so much, Holden. And now we're going to be reflecting a little bit more on the experience that a lot of us men are going to be feeling when we look at that one ideal and one idea of being a man, right? How does it feel when we're not man enough, when we find ourselves outside of this narrow definition of what it means to be a man? And the long and short of it is that we feel like we're failures on a very personal level, right? For different people, being a man means a lot to us, right? And when we're told that we're not man enough, it feels like there's something wrong with us and that there's something in need of fixing. Holden, is there an experience that you can recall where you remember feeling like you weren't man enough, and what did that feel like?
Yeah, even like I said, through sports and stuff, if you didn't have a good game or you even got pushed around by an opponent, I guess, just hearing it from people that actually matter to you on a personal level, like family and friends, it can be embarrassing to a certain extent to not live up to their expectations of being a man. So I think that it eventually, if it goes on long enough, can be very detrimental to mental and physical health.
Totally. Thank you, Holden. Like, when we want love from the people that are closest to us and we feel like we're not meeting their expectations, that could just that can make us feel really alone and isolated. Yeah, thank you. So now we're going to be talking about how we treat others when we think that they're not man enough, right? So just like when we were talking about before and reflecting on the man box and seeing the kinds of language that's structured to people who fall outside of the man box, we can see that they're being shamed and shunned and bullied and harassed into conforming with the man box, right? If you're not being rational and stoic and only expressing anger, and you're showing other emotions like being scared or anxious or sad, they say, oh, suck it up, be a man. All of these phrases and all of these words are used to get people to get back into the box. Stop being not a man and do the only thing that is to be a man, right? And we also talked about what this does is when we have language like this, it structures the way we think, right? So when we say, oh, being a man is the only thing that we have to do, and in order to not be a man is to fall outside this box, right? And we really value that. We associate being a man with a good thing because we want to be men, right? And then when we fall outside this box, that it's a bad thing, right? And then but some of the characteristics and traits that we see are associated with being a woman or being gay, bisexual, and trans, or a part of the LGBTQ2 plus community, right? So we're structuring our language and our thought into implying that being a man is a good thing and not being a man is a bad thing. And that, and maybe we can talk about the effects of that, which is that we're made to feel like we're the problem, right? When we feel like we're not man enough, or when we're treating people like they're not man enough, we're making them and us feel like we're the problem. When in actuality, the problem is how we define a man. And in order to really reveal that, I want to ask a very powerful question, which is, what do we think a guy is, right? Think of a man in your life that you want to be. What traits and values do they have? If you're an educator watching this, you can pause the video and ask the class to think of a man that they know in their lives, that they want to be, and that's made them feel loved, and talk about what traits and values they have. So let's get into it. We see things oftentimes like fair, being supportive, being warm and sensitive, right? Someone who's a good listener, who you can share things with, and you know that they're going to listen and attend to you, right? Someone who you can tell that you made a mistake, and then they'll say, "It's okay, man. You tried your best, and that's all that you can ever do," right? And being understanding and patient of learning, and that's what composes being a good teacher, right? Or someone who's like really expressive and wants to share things with people and do things for others, like being a cook and cooking good meals for other people. Holden, do you have a strongest man in your life that you would like to share?
Yeah, when I was younger, like a lot of kids, I guess I really looked up to my dad, but he was like, he fulfilled the stereotypical definition of a man. He was the strong, in my opinion, anyway. And then as I've grown up, I guess I've really learned to appreciate my grandpa. I think he's encompasses more of the qualities that I would like to have as a man, because not only was he the strong and tough side, but he also had the supportive, sensitive, thoughtful, understanding side, which is important to have balance in yourself.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Holden. Yeah, having a wide variety of ways we can be a man is awesome, and we can talk about that a little bit more, right? Because when we compare this with the man box, what we notice is that there's no box around. There's no box where all these words have to fit into, and the reason why is because we're asking ourselves what we think we want a man to be, and what a man is, right? And when we do that, the list could be endless. We could keep talking about it and saying, I want a man to be this, and I want to be this when I'm growing up and being a man or a boy, right? We can keep talking about this. Alicia, do you have something to say about this?
Yeah. Like, just to kind of go off of Holden's point, that there's characteristics that Holden's grandfather had that were inside of that man box, right? But then there's other characteristics that were outside of the box that were still very valuable to Holden. And so there's nothing wrong with being a man. There's something wrong with thinking that the only way you can be a man is in that box.
Absolutely. Thank you. So really what we're talking about is getting rid of this box, right? Why should we avoid putting boxes around being a man? And the first thing that I want to say is that it allows us to be ourselves, right? When we're naturally just being ourselves and we find ourselves outside the man box, like we face like harassment and have these insults laid against us, when really that's just who we want to be, right? And when we get rid of that box, we understand that there's many ways to be a man. Just like Holden was talking about, kind of being well-rounded and diverse, having many interests, and knowing that we can do things in many different ways. Holden, do you want to talk about any of the different points on the screen or anything else?
Yeah, I think it just having that box just puts such a limitation on what you feel like you're able to do as a man, that removing that box will really allow people to express their true selves and fulfill their full potential, which is definitely important in life.
Yeah, thank you, Holden. Going off what you were saying before, how do you think the man box restricts or limits our emotions?
Um, I think that you're just pushed so much to suppress things as a man, that if you do express your emotions of love, sadness, anything like that that's considered to be soft, um, it can really put a damper, I guess, on your mental health, because it's really not healthy. Like, it's scientifically proven that it's not healthy to suppress your emotions and that you're not able to tell people how you really feel.
Thank you so much, Holden. And like a part of that piece is right is like being able to share and express those emotions with other people and connecting with them. Right, we're gonna have more authentic and genuine and healthy relationships if we can express who we are. Right, and in that way, being a healthy guy is a part of being and having these healthy relationships. Alicia, maybe you want to speak to something we might have missed about healthy relationships?
I think you hit a lot of it, that, just being true and authentic to yourself. It can be really hard in the world that we're in, but the only way that you can really push back against that is to continue to be yourself and question, why is it bad that I care about you? Why is it bad that I'm crying that I just lost someone in my life? There's nothing wrong with that.
Thank you, Alicia. Awesome. So we went over a lot today, and just to like go over what we've learned and really consolidate some of our points, let's ask ourselves, what did we learn? So we learned about where we learn about what being a guy means. Holden did a really good job talking about how we are informed by social media, by shows and advertisements, about these kind of stereotypical images that we see about being a man, and that they're not often realistic, right? That they're often a part of scripts and a part of dominant culture, and not actually representative of the men that we see in our lives. We also talked about what the current way of being a man is. We talked in depth about this stereotypical man box man that we come to know, and the effects of that, right? We learned about how we and others feel when we don't fit in that man box, when we just, like being ourselves, naturally just fall outside of it. And we also learned that being a guy doesn't look like one thing, that it's a diverse kind of thing. We can be well-rounded men who with many interests and many passions, and that there are as many ways to be a man as there are men. And that's awesome, because that means that we can choose what being a man means to us. And that's an awesome thing, because we get to control our path of growth and development. And we don't have to restrict ourselves with the kind of impacts that the man box has on both ourselves and other people. And Holden was talking about that, like how important sharing our feelings is, and having connections with others, and how that's important for being a healthy human being and also a healthy guy. Awesome. And with that, if you're an educator watching this webinar, we would please encourage you to fill out the survey. We want to make sure these webinars are as awesome as possible. So we really appreciate your feedback. And if you want to get in touch with us and are in need of talking with someone in a crisis scenario, we have a 24/7 crisis support line. We have a text line, a phone line, and an online web chat service. If you can't remember the numbers that you see on the screen right now, that's okay. Just head to our website at KawarthaSexualAssaultCenter.com. And with that, I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening to us. We had awesome discussions today, so I want to thank my facilitators, Alicia and Holden. You're providing really good points, and it's awesome to have other men to talk about these topics with. Yeah, thank you, Holden.
No worries. Awesome. Thanks.
Take care.